All right, CNT125 Voice over IP Lab. We just got done putting the sub-interfaces and DHCP config on the router. We're now going to move into the telephony config. And it's going to be three pieces, kind of the basics, and then configuring the directory numbers, the people, and then the actual physical phones. So that's the three pieces we're going to do. So to start off, I'm going to do some background config here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to set the clock. We're going to update that to current time and day, if you will. So right now it's 11, I got to get my, there we go, 11:36. And the day for me is the 29th of September, 2023. Okay, that now sets the clock. If I do config T, I can now do clock time zone. And we can do Eastern time zone because that's where we are, an offset of 0. We're not going to adjust that at all. So if I do exit and show clock, it should be showing me the current time now. That's helpful when we start doing phone calls, timestamps, everything are correct. We'll now do config T, and we're now going to do the general telephony config. Okay, so we're going to say telephony service. We're going to say max, in this case, max E phones. That's the actual physical phones in the network. The router that we're using to configure phones, if I remember correctly, can support up to like 36 phones. We're just going to say that this site is small and we're going to have up to 12. Now we're only going to configure like 4, but it's kind of setting the max range for this facility. We're then going to do max DN of 12 as well. Max DN of 12 as well. We want to do no auto registration, so it does not automatically auto register our phones for us. That is helpful. And we now need to specify where the phones are going to get their config from. So this is going to be the address of my sub interface for that network, this one over here, the 128.1. That's what we're going to use there. So it'll look like this. IP source address 172.16.128.1. We need port 2000. Okay, port 2000 is for SCCP or skinny, which is what these Cisco phones are going to use for their setup protocol. We're now going to do create CNF files. These are the XML files that get loaded to the phones on boot up. Yes, this will probably pop up an error. Not a big deal. We know we have the clock set. It's okay. Okay, we'll do exit here. And there is the basic telephony config, kind of the background config we need. Now we're going to move on to the DNs, or the directory numbers. So these would be the people, the employees in the company. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to say ephone DN1, directory number 1, if you will. We're going to plug in here a number, and we're just going to use extensions for this config today. We're not going to worry about the full 10-digit. We're just going to do the extensions for today. And in real life, we would follow this up with the name command. And we put in here like Doug Brown. Packet Tracer does not have that simulation built in, or that capability built in. But if we were in the lab room, we would do this step now and plug in the person's name next. So we're going to skip that for now, and we'll say exit. We're going to repeat this for the other phone. So I'm going to use my up arrow and go DN2, number 7002, exit. Up arrow DN3, and then we want number 7003, exit. We'll do DN4, and we need 7004, exit. Okay, and what that created for us, if we take a look, I'm going to do a show run. Space, space, space. Down here, this was the telephony config we did, the general telephony config. And now the DN config that we did is here. And again, in real life, these would have names below them. Doug Brown, Bob Smith, Sally Jones, etc. Okay. Again, Packet Tracer does not have that capability built in to do all the names here, but that's where we would do this in real life. The next piece is the actual physical phone. We need to configure the actual phone into the network. And how that's done is we do it by MAC address. So in real life, what I would be doing at this point, let me save my config. I'll go into the closet. In real life, I would be picking up my phone. I would be examining, let me zoom in here. I'd be examining the phone up close. And down here on the bottom will be printed the serial number and the MAC address. The serial number, that's nice. That lets us know, that specific phone. But I need the MAC address off. And it's usually printed down here on a sticker. It is tiny, and I do need to pay attention to the way the MAC address is written. It's typically written in this format. 4 characters, dot, 4 characters, dot, 4 characters. Okay? That's the format we need to use. So normally I'd be looking here physically on the phone for that. In Packet Tracer, what I can do is if I hover my pointer over the phone, go back here. There we go. If I have the pointer over the phone, if I look under VLAN 1, I see the actual MAC address of this device. So the one I'm hovering on right now would be 00D0 D38B1E73. That is the one I'm looking at right now. In this case, it's ePhone 2. Remember, MAC address is hexadecimal, 0 through 9, A through F. Okay? There are no O's. These are zeros. I need to make sure this is 100% correct. An error here, if I have the wrong digit in, the phone will not register, the phone will not get a phone number, the phone will not call, the phone will not ring. I have to be spot on this one. So, what I'll do is I'll hover my pointer over the phone and verify. And what I actually did for you is I put those numbers here, but in real life I would be writing those down. 0050, 0FE0, 44, 8A. And then I would go to ePhone 2 and repeat. And then I would go to ePhone 3 and repeat. If I look at here at ePhone 3, 000A, 41D8, and then 5A0B. Okay? The last one I need to do is I'm going to put a soft phone on PC1. So if I look out here on Logical, I'm going to have a soft phone here on PC1. So I'm going to call it ePhone 4. So I need to get the MAC address of this PC. So if I hover the pointer over this guy, again, if I look under Fast Ethernet 0, off to the right I see 00101192 CD12. Okay, so I actually did copy all these MAC addresses over here for you. You would want to do that in real life and make sure they are quadruple checked correct. Now I will configure the ePhones into my network. So ePhone, we'll do config T. We're going to do ePhone 1. And we now need to plug in its MAC address. So I will say MAC address. And here I can actually do a little cheating because Mr. Brown helped you out with this one. I'm going to get rid of my typing tool. I can actually highlight this MAC address, but I got to make sure I don't have extra spaces, characters, etc. Copy. I can come over here and I can paste it in. That MAC address. Now I need to indicate the type. What type of phone is this? Well, this is a 7960. Okay. I would know that if I look at the actual phone itself here. This is a device model 7960. It needs to know what type of XML file it's sending. And the last part, this is probably the toughest part of the whole thing, this button command ties the phone to the DN. So the button command works this way. I'll say button 1, in this case it was 1:1. Well, the first number that I see here is the actual button on the phone. So let me look at this guy and let me do, actually I'll go back to physical and I'm going to look at the front of the phone here. I'm going to do examine, inspect front. Actually, I need to do, I don't think it lets me show the back yet. No, okay. It's not powered on, so it's going to give me an error. However, if I look here, there's a whole bunch of buttons. I can configure different numbers, different phone numbers on these buttons. Well, the way this works is the phone number I need to associate with this phone, I typically associate with button number 1. That's typically what I do. So the very first number I'm plugging in here is associating with button 1, physical 1 on the phone. The next number over here on the right is tying it to the DN number. So I'm saying ePhone 1 is going to tie to DN1 is what I'm doing. Okay, the first button on the phone is getting assigned DN1. All right. Now when I do ePhone 2, I'll copy its MAC address in. Here's ePhone 2. Copy, come over here, MAC address. MAC address. I'm going to paste that in. And I'm going to say type 7960 again. And I'm going to say button 1:2 for DN2. First button on the phone is going to get assigned DN2. So ePhone 2 is getting assigned DN2. Okay. Exit. I'm going to repeat for ePhone 3. There we go. We need MAC address on this guy. I'll come up here. I'll copy. Oh, come on now. There we go. Copy. Paste. I'm going to say type 7960. I'm going to say button 1:3 for DN3. ePhone 3 is going to get tied to DN3. Exit. ePhone 4. This is going to be the soft phone on the PC. Okay, this is going to be the soft phone on the PC, so I need the PC's MAC address. Here it is right there. Okay, we're going to copy this guy. We're going to paste him in. The type on this one is Cisco IP Communicator. Cisco IP Communicator, CIPC. And I have that down here under 4, CIPC. And this one will be button 1:4. Okay. Now I'll do exit, exit. If I do a show run, down here at the bottom, after my DNs, here's my DNs. I now start seeing my ePhones. Okay. ePhone 1 is tying to DN1. ePhone 2 is tying to DN2. ePhone 3 is tying to DN3, and so forth. Okay. So I will do a copy, run, start on this guy. So if I take a look at my config over here, I actually have all my configuration in now. What I'll do is I'm going to do a show, come on now, show ePhone. So this is going to show me my ePhones and the status of them. Right now I see 4. I see they are all unregistered and they are all down. They're not powered up, they're not connected, they're not registered, nothing. It's just default config in here. But now that I have them configured in here, when I plug them in, when I actually power the phones, they should register and get their configuration from the router. So let's do that. I'm going to come over here. Actually, I'll do this in the next podcast. We'll power up, get IP addresses, and all that kind of good stuff.